Good evening. My name is Miles Brown, and I'm a Big Red 1 soldier. Tonight we're going to have a town hall meeting on Facebook. It's also being streamed on YouTube, and it's on our Google Hangout. But right up front, I want to introduce myself and then give Sergeant Major Orvis a chance to introduce himself.
So good evening, I'm Command Sergeant Major Larry Orvis, and I am also a Big Red 1 soldier. Before we get started, I want to thank you, family members, and soldiers for your countless hours over the past several months in preparing for our NTC rotation coming up. Your efforts and your hours that you sacrifice will ensure that we have a successful rotation. I encourage you to submit questions if you have questions or comments via Facebook, YouTube, or Google Hangouts.
Before we get started, we're going to show a video, and this video is available to you for you to watch also on YouTube. The link is also shared on the Dagger Facebook page. I encourage you to view that. It talks about what your soldier is going to experience during his or her time at Fort Irwin, California. The slides we're presenting are also going to be available on Facebook on the Brigade's Flickr page for you to reference at any time. Again, this is just an opportunity for us to talk through some of the important things about NTC and what our experience is going to be, and for you to, for us to hear what your questions are so we can answer them. Okay. Okay.
The video is not. It's choppy here, so we can't play the video. So we have to go back to you. Are you ready to go straight to the slides?
Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk through the agenda. Today we've already had our command introduction. We're going to talk about just some ideas and some things about the NTC. We're going to review the calendar. We're going to introduce some of the Rear D, the contact information, and then we're going to go through some post agencies and some activities that are going to take place when we get to the NTC. Next slide. We've already introduced ourselves. So the National Training Center, first of all, the National Training Center is at Fort Irwin, California. It's not on the moon. It actually is in the United States. Sometimes you get there and you're not sure where you are, but you are actually in the United States. It's in California. If you see the slide that's here, Fort Irwin is located near Los Angeles, California, but it's out in the desert. It's in the high Mojave Desert. It was first used as a military training facility by people like George Patton before the Second World War. It's the one place in the United States Army where you can train every warfighting function and every mission command system that we have in our inventory. And in many ways, it is the crown jewel of our national security apparatus in terms of the application of combined arms warfare. Next slide. So here we are today on February 19th, where we're having our town hall. What we've done to date is we've been spending a lot of time building our equipment and uploading our equipment onto the rail so that we can move it out to the National Training Center. This will continue as we complete the end of February. Next slide. As we move into March, we'll start to move our equipment via line haul and rail. The first week of March, it will actually leave Fort Riley, Kansas. We will also actually have some equipment that will leave from places in Arizona and other locations in the East Coast, where we'll have some reserve component forces that will be participating in our rotation. The second week in March, we'll begin to flow forces into the National Training Center from here at Fort Riley, but we'll flow in via air. So we'll leave from Fort Riley. We'll move on a bus to a port of debarkation, primarily Salina or Topeka. We'll fly from there, and then we'll land in Victorville, California, and then bus into Fort Riley or to Fort Irwin from there. That'll happen in the second week of March. For the next 3 weeks, we will be in in our mission execution phase at the NTC, and that will continue on into the first week of April. The week of time, the 16th through the 20th, we'll have some limited communication windows in March. But then as we move into the last week of March and the first week of April, there will be no communication. Does that mean that your soldier will not be able to receive a Red Cross message? No, they will be able to receive a Red Cross message. They'll be able to get information that is emergency information to family members. But again, it will be only emergency information. We'll cover that a little bit later as we move forward. Next slide. As we move into April, the first week of April, as we said, will still be limited or no communication, and we'll be out there in the training area. We'll come back the second week of April, and we'll continue to do our maintenance, our field maintenance at the National Training Center. At the end of that week, we will start to flow back to Fort Riley and other places that the Reserve Component Forces have been stationed. And basically, we'll be back home and home station. We'll continue to do recovery and maintenance operations through the end of April. That will complete our NTC deployment. At this time, I will put the contact information up for our Rear Detachment Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Joey Arrington.
Good evening. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Joey Arrington. I am the brigade, 2nd Brigade's Deputy Commander and will be the Rear Detachment Commander while the brigade is at the National Training Center.
Sergeant Berkey.
I am First Sergeant Danny Berkey. I will be the brigade Rear D NCOIC.
And their numbers are on that slide. But you'll have the information, and I know that the Rear D contact information that has gone out at the battalion, the company, troop, and battery level has gone out through your pre-deployment briefings. And let me talk a little bit about the pre-deployment briefings that we've done today. Just so everyone understands, we have done pre-deployment briefings for all 7 battalions. We've done 3 of those. So each battalion, so that's 21 total briefing times. We've done briefings during the day. We've done them during the weekday. We've done them on the weekend, and we've done them on weekday evenings. That gives the maximum amount of opportunity for our family members and their soldiers to go and listen to the rear detachment and the forward chain of command about what's going on at the NTC and what's going to happen back here for families, and to make sure that they have all their questions answered. So if you haven't had the opportunity to go to one of those meetings, try to make the most of that opportunity over the next 7 to 10 days. Okay, we're going to go to the next slide. This talks about how you can communicate with your soldier while we're at the National Training Center. We have the mailing address there, and as you can see, it's very simple. The zip code out at Fort Irwin is 92310. If you send mail after the 31st of March, there's a very good chance that your soldier will not receive it before they are headed back to home station. So there is a significant lag time, and it's not that the mail is not getting to the soldier. Once it gets to Fort Irwin, it actually gets to the soldier pretty quickly. But a lot of times, the mail getting from across the United States to Fort Irwin takes a little bit. But once it gets out there to Fort Irwin, we get it processed and get it to the soldiers relatively quickly. Talking about phones, we talked earlier about how you communicate with your soldiers previous to going into the box. As we said, there are periods of limited communication and there's periods of no communication. During those times of no communication, we will only have landline phones that allow us to communicate Red Cross messages and emergency activities. So if your soldier brings a phone to the National Training Center, they will be secured during those times. And that does a few things. For one, it takes away the training distractors so that soldiers are completely focused on those 2 weeks of training. The second thing it allows the unit to secure all those that equipment so that it doesn't get lost on the soldier out in the field. If soldiers carry their phones out in the field in that training environment, they might maintain it for 1, maybe 2 days. But after about day 13 or 14, they're probably going to lose that phone, and then they won't have it when they do want to talk to you when they get back ready in that second week of April to come home. The last thing is for internet. the soldiers will have limited access to the internet throughout the National Training Center rotation. And the reason for that is, even though there are some internet cafes and some other abilities, there won't be that's not the purpose of us going to the National Training Center, for us to have internet comms. So if there's internet activities that they need to do, and we've already briefed the soldiers on this, whether it be correspondence courses, college classes, taxes, or other things like that, they need to do that prior to deploying. Next slide. At this time, I'd like to have a guest speaker. If you would like to introduce yourself, I'd love for you to do that. Go ahead.
Excuse me. Good evening. My name is Sonia Brown, and I work at Army Community Service. And today I'm going to speak to you about a sheet that you have received or you can receive, and it's a snapshot so that you don't, if you need some type of assistance, you don't have to worry about trying to go and find the phone numbers. It's all captured on one form for you. Emergency contact numbers, and ranging from everything from the MPs to the fire station to, of course, Army Community Service, but also any other service you may need for ID cards, for child care, for veterinary care, any type of assistance that you may need. In the lower right-hand corner, we also have our ACS information, and we also have information about counseling services, whether it's the chaplain or behavioral health, family advocacy. Next slide, please. At this time, we just want to remind you also that during NTC or any time of separation, sometimes issues might come up, and your military and family life consultant is available for you before you go to NTC, and absolutely for family members while you're at NTC. So if you're having any concerns, please contact your military family life consultant. The phone numbers are there, and if you cannot reach your embedded family life consultant, HCS also has a team of military and family life counselors available to you. Lastly, I just wanted to quickly mention about the Hearts Apart program, which provides programming for families who are separated from their soldiers. And on March 26th, we're sponsoring the Hearts Apart event for family members. There's no slide on that, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Just thought I'd just throw that in. But all the information is also on our Fort Riley webpage, and we encourage you to take advantage of that. And don't forget about your entitlements, your free child care, 16 hours of free child care per child per month for you. So take advantage of that during your separation, and give yourself some time, and also give the kids some time to be with other children. And remember that ACS is here for you, and we're here to serve Big Red 1 soldiers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
While we're talking about the military, family, and life consultant, I also want to bring to your attention that the brigade has a personal financial counselor. Her number is 785-764-0530, and she is available also 24 hours a day to talk about personal financial matters. Both the military family life consultant and our personal financial counselor can lead you to other resources if they cannot help you. Next slide, please. So we're going to take a second to talk about Red Cross notification. The important thing about the Red Cross notification, of course, is the number on your screen right now. It's important that if there is a family emergency that you call Red Cross so that they can notify. Make sure that you let the soldier know, let Red Cross know that your soldier is at the National Training Center. Generally, within an hour or so, your soldier is being notified, and within a couple hours, if the situation warrants, your soldier is on the way to the airport. I do want to clarify, though, a Red Cross message does not automatically mean emergency leave will be approved. The general guideline is a serious situation involving an immediate family member is what will constitute whether your soldier will be allowed to leave the National Training Center on emergency leave. And emergency leave is funded by the Army, so we will take care of that. Get your soldier on the way. Next slide, please. So while we're talking about emergency leave, loco parentis is often a tough subject when it comes to emergency leave. So loco parentis is essentially someone that was raised by not their parent but someone else, for example, a grandparent. So if there is an emergency with a grandparent, in general, that would not constitute an emergency leave situation because it is not in a situation involving an immediate family member. However, if the grandparent raised the soldier and it meets the definition on your screen right now, then that grandparent would be loco parentis and therefore constitute emergency leave. The important thing about this is loco parentis has to be declared before the soldier deploys, whether to NTC or to an area outside. Normally, this is done when the soldier enters the Army. They've already identified this, and this is already in their records. What the soldier can do is verify that. The other piece to clarify, too, is that a spouse can also be loco parentis, and that is not necessarily documented in a soldier's record. So what's important to do for a spouse is that has to be documented by memorandum and put in the soldier's records before they deploy, and that will also qualify them for loco parentis for emergency leave if something happens. Next slide, please. So power of attorney, it is very difficult to estimate whether or not you will have an emergency. So I would encourage everyone to get a power of attorney. Brigade legal can do this. Legal assistants can do this. Your soldier can do this while they are here at Brigade to get you a power of attorney. And then there's some information on taxes up here, but what I would do is refer you to the tax center on Fort Riley if you have a specific question about taxes. Next slide, please. So a very important topic is pay. Your soldier will be gone for about 30 days, and while your soldier is gone, your soldier will be fed. One of the categories that your soldier is paid in addition to their base pay is basic allowance for subsistence. It equals about $12.25 a day, and that is really to offset the cost of sustenance for your soldier. It is an allowance given to your soldier for his meals. Since we are at National Training Center, the Army, we will provide your soldier with food, meals, so therefore your soldier will not get that $12.25 for that time period he's gone. If a soldier is gone for 21 days, then the soldier will not get 21 days worth of $12.25. So the important thing about that is it's not usually immediate. It usually takes about 30 days for finance to catch that up in the system. So it could be, if we come back from NTC in April, it could be May or June before you see that deduction come out of your soldier's pay. The other part to that is in some cases, some soldiers will be gone more than 30 days. If a soldier is gone more than 30 days, your soldier will get $250 for family separation allowance. Okay, next slide. So with that, sir, if you want to add anything, or we can see if we have any questions, we can take some questions at this time.
I think we do have one question, Sergeant Major. It came from Sherry Padulis. It said the question is, how will the soldiers get to California? The soldiers will be moving. Again, they'll move from Fort Riley proper to a local airport, either in Salina, Kansas, or in Topeka, Kansas, and from there they will fly to Fort Irwin, California, and then be bused from a regional airport into Fort Irwin. But the bus ride both ways is only about 30 to 45 minutes, so they will fly via air.
And it's not commercial air through an airport; it's charter air. So they would go right from the bus right onto the aircraft, and then likewise at NTC.
So we have another question, because we're getting these questions on Google Hangouts, we're getting them on some other sources, and we're getting them on Facebook. There was a question about what is the NTC in preparation for. So this rotation is what we call a decisive action training environment rotation. This is the second of its kind. And the Dagger Brigade, the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team of the 1st Infantry Division, is the first, one of the first units in the Army to go through 2 date rotations consecutively. This rotation is preparing us for a possible worldwide availability beginning in summer of 2015. Do we have orders to deploy yet? Absolutely not. But we know that we are available. And the way the Army works is once you've completed your training, you're in the ready pool, and the Army and the nation have you as available for deployment. So we anticipate while we may deploy to a regional area, whether the Middle East or Africa again or Korea, while we anticipate doing that, we don't yet have orders. And that answers another question that was there are rumors floating around about the brigade deploying to Iraq. I don't have orders for Iraq. Again, we anticipate being available as early as June of 2015. So I have a question here from a guest. Where can I find a list of FRG leaders? At the brigade level, we have a comprehensive list of the 40 troops companies and batteries in the brigade. But that information is best processed out through one of those three pre-deployment briefings that I talked about earlier. And those pre-deployment briefings have all the FRG contact information. So what I would ask, I would tell any of the spouses or dependents out there is your first line of defense for finding out that information is your service member. And ask your service member to give you the points of contact for your FRG. And if you're not getting that, then go through the chain of command, either the troop company or battery chain of command, so we can get you that information. We have another question. What will the soldiers not going to NTC be doing? First of all, we're going to deploy most of the folks in the brigade. A pretty high percentage, close to 90%, will deploy to the National Training Center. So for those that are not going to the NTC, their purpose back here, we have some that will be doing some conversions. We have some equipment, some software that is being converted. So they may be here doing that. They may be doing a maintenance of equipment that we're leaving back here to make sure that it's prepared for follow-on training and follow-on operations. Again, getting after that June of 15 availability. Or they may be due to end their time in service, what we call ETS, or they may be due to transfer, what we call a permanent change of station, PCS. So those are the only folks that will be back here. They'll either be doing maintenance, they'll be doing conversions of equipment, or they'll be due to leave. And most of the folks that are either due to leave, either due to transfer or to end of time in service, will be gone before we return. So one of the things I want to say before we close here, because we'll still stay open for a few more minutes if we have any other questions. But we've answered all the questions that we've received so far. First of all, thanks for your time. For those of you that tuned in, we're very appreciative of your support. The Dagger Brigade Combat Team was constituted on 24 May 1917. It's one of the oldest regiments, or one of the oldest brigade combat teams in the Army. And it's actually, in many ways, one of the original combined arms formations in the history of the United States Army. So we are part of the oldest and most historic division in the Army, the Big Red One, and we are proud not only of your support, but of your soldiers' service. I can't thank you enough for what you do every single day to make sure that your soldiers are ready for deployment, are supported throughout all our training densities, gunnery densities, all our field time. We've had an extraordinary year. What this brigade has done from the regionally aligned forces mission in Africa to coming back and getting back on our equipment, conducting some comprehensive maintenance, going through several $1 million of refit and rearm and refuel type activities is really extraordinary. And it couldn't have been done without the fantastic support of the families and the dependents that are out there as a part of the extended Dagger family. I'll give to the Sergeant Major for him to have any closing comments, and then we'll wrap up.
I really just want to reassure you that your Rear D cadre, the folks that are staying back here, have been especially selected in order to take care of you, the family members, while we are at NTC. While we're at NTC, we'll be going through some tough physically and mentally challenging, realistic training. And it's important that if you need something, you reach out to the Rear D cadre.
Again, thanks so much for all your support. As Sergeant Major said, the Rear D that we've selected was not picked because they happen to be non-deployable. Every single member of the Rear D cadre was hand-selected because of their leadership, capability, capacity, and care for and concern for soldiers and their families. They genuinely, and we genuinely care about you. We think every member of this team is important. We will be out being brave, responsible, and on point at the National Training Center. And so we ask that you do the same here at Fort Riley, Kansas. Thank you for, again, for participating in today's virtual town hall, and God bless you.